Okay, Mayor, we are streaming.
Excellent. Today is Tuesday, May 18th, 2021, on our regular council meeting, calling our meeting to order. Notice to the public that the City Council may vote to go into executive session for legal advice on any of the agendized items on tonight's meeting. Ms. Salzberg, roll call, please.
Mayor Deasy.
Here.
Vice Mayor Daggett.
Here.
Councilmember Aslan.
Here.
Councilmember McCarthy.
Here.
Councilmember Salas.
Present.
Councilmember Shimoni.
Present.
Councilmember Sweet.
Present.
All right. Well, I can never remember who I throw out there for pledge and mission statement each week, but let's go for Councilmember Salas. If you would lead us in the pledge, please. I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm honored to do so. Please stand as you can. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember. Let's do Councilmember Shimoni. Would you let us know our mission statement?
The mission of the City of Flagstaff is to protect and enhance the quality of life for all.
Thank you, Councilmember. And that brings us down to agenda item 4 of our public participation. And I just got notification that we do have one public participant. So if staff could, tap him in here, that'd be great.
Mr. Babbitt, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Stacy. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This is Art Babbitt. My wife, Heather, and I operate and manage the Flagstaff Community Market. And I just wanted to take 1 minute of your busy day and just give you an update on how the first few markets in general.
Mr. Babbitt, we're having trouble hearing you.
Hold on just one moment. We're having some poor audio quality.
Okay.
Let me try and move the phone away a little bit. All right, if you please go ahead.
Okay. Well, I will just give a quick update to the start of the season to get 3 markets, the overwhelming response to more farmers markets in a managed manner, incredibly positive. Several of the council members out, which I super appreciate at the market. The PDC has changed some messaging. We started the first market, I would say probably 95% less wearing. CDC, I see that a little bit, probably to 75 to 80% still very high compliance. We actually just the first calculator did have wait for pretty short time while the market cleared out, so this worked well. I do have a question that I know for me to pose to folks. Given CDC guidelines, is that something the market should be handling in terms of those who are vaccinated? That's what tonight is something to contemplate. But mostly really wanted to express more appreciation and the appreciation of
Mr. Babbitt, could you hold on just one moment? Mayor, would you like me to try and call him back and see if that helps with the sound quality?
Yes, please do. Let's see if that can help. Thank you.
Okay, how am I sounding to folks right now?
Is that any better?
Yes, that sounds better.
All right.
Well, I'll make this excruciatingly quick. Strong, they have been great, it's been well managed, overwhelming positive response. There are folks who are going to take some time getting comfortable in settings that have people, but generally people are doing well. Our staff is managing. This last week we did have a line at the front based on our capacity calculator. It went well. People are just so appreciative of the opportunity to shop what we believe is very safely outdoors. Our vendors are thrilled to be, and growers to be ringing their cash registers finally. And, I did make the request at some point to have the city help those of us in the event world understand what adjustments we should be making, if any, assuming the city is following the CDC guidelines that have changed. So that's a conversation we can have with staff, but it's something that comes up as far as if you are vaccinated, the mask mandate has changed outdoors. And so just wanted to put that out there, but really want to say thank you for being willing to proactively walk with us forward in a managed way. The community is really, really appreciative. I'm appreciative, and all our vendors and growers are really appreciative. So thanks for your vote of confidence in doing something responsibly. If you have questions or comments, happy to take them, or online now or offline if you want to have a follow-up conversation.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Babbitt. I appreciate it. That then brings us down to agenda item number 5, which is our appointments. This is the consideration of an appointment for Commission on Diversity Awareness. The staff recommended action is to make one appointment to a term expiring September 2022 and to make one appointment to a term expiring September 2023. And I believe the first individual up is Councilmember Salas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am honored to recommend the appointment of Ms. Claire Hardy for a term expiring September 2023 for the Commission on Diversity Awareness.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a nomination from Councilmember Salas, seconded by Councilmember Shimoni. Is there any further discussion, Council? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries. With that, it is my turn. I would like to recommend appointment of Christine Tucci for an appointment to the Commission on Diversity Awareness to a term expiring September 2022.
I'll
Do I
second
have a
it.
second? All right, a motion by myself, seconded by Councilmember Sweet. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That appointment carries. We are now down to agenda item number 6, which is our consent items. And this would be consent item 6A is our only one on the agenda, which is the consideration and approval of a construction manager at-risk construction services contract with annual street maintenance and overlay and chip seal program 2021 to C&E Paving and Grading LLC in the amount of $2,101,819.12. Staff recommended action is to approve the annual street maintenance overlay and chip seal program 2021 and execute a CMAR contract with C&E Paving and Grading LLC for a guaranteed maximum price of $2.1 million, which includes an owner's contingency of $100,000. Council, I would like to motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second, McCarthy.
Motion by myself, second by Councilmember McCarthy. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Agenda item 7 is our routine items. 7A is the consideration and adoption of ordinance number 2021-12, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Flagstaff and abandoning and authorizing the sale of approximately 1,400 square feet of the Hoskins Avenue public right-of-way adjacent to 709 South O'Leary Street, providing for delegation of authority, repeal of conflicting ordinances, severability, and establishing an effective date. Staff recommended action is to read ordinance number 2021-12 by title only for the final time. And is there any further presentation from the first go-round that we had regarding this issue?
Hi, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. No, we do not have any additional information for you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Doty. And I understand we do have one public participant, so I would like to take that individual now.
Ms. Coral Evans, could you please go ahead?
Hello. Hi, Council. My name is Coral Evans. I live at 518 South O'Leary Street. I wanted to call in on this particular item. First of all, I wanted to tell Council how excited I am that you're considering this item and that you've had a first vote to move this forward. I think it's absolutely critical and something that the community, the neighborhood, South Side, has truly needed. I also want to weigh in on the conversation that I heard last week. I was the individual, I was mayor at the time, that set up the meeting that happened at Huntington and O'Leary Street and invited Mr. Hernandez, as well as the city manager and city staff, out to that location to better understand what the issue was. I wanted to say thank you to the city manager, because the only reason this item is before council at this time is because of the work that Mr. Clifton did to make sure there was a way to get it to council. At that particular time, city staff had gone through what has been the historic way they look at things to the property group, and that this particular project was not something that they were willing to support given the current guidelines. The city manager Clifton listened, he understood, he watched and kind of said, okay, what's going on in this area? And it was because of him that this item is before council. He said, I'm going to figure out a way to go through our process in a legal manner that allows these types of issues to come before council, issues that historically council has never seen. You know, I would like to say that definitely, historically, there has been issues in the South Side, you know, and there is definitely, you know, a sense in that neighborhood that they have not been well taken care of or well provided for. Mr. Clifton made sure that there was equity and made sure that this particular item got before council. No time. And I have spent, I think, almost 2 years with Mr. Clifton. Has he ever taken into consideration someone's ethnicity or the color of someone's skin when he makes decisions on behalf of the city? And so I wanted to call in and weigh in with that after listening to the conversation that I heard 2 weeks ago. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Evans. And
Mayor,
I would like to,
could
yes.
this is Jim McCarthy. I would like to ask the speaker a question. And I apologize. For some reason, I don't understand. There's a big blue rectangle in my screen, and I can't put in chat. So that's why I had to just jump in. So is the mayor, the former mayor, still on the line?
On the line, thank you.
Well, Ms. Evans, I'm not convinced that giving up the existing right-of-way makes sense, considering that there are plans to conduct to put a foots trail through that corridor. As noted in the staff report, the request to abandon the public right-of-way is not consistent with the Flagstaff Regional Plan, nor with the Active Transportation Specific Plan. Under options and alternatives, the staff report recommends in plain language that we do not approve this abandonment. So I guess my question is, considering that, do you still support this abandonment, and why?
I 100% support this abandonment, and I will tell you why. with all due respect to the staff's report, and standing there and chatting with staff about this issue, first and foremost, that foot trail that they are talking about can be moved to the opposite side of the road. Third, there is absolutely no plans, no current plans to do any type of foot trail connection in that area. There's no funding and there's no plans for the conceivable future. This particular road has been this way for over 40 years, and you have an issue with the right-of-way on the other side where you have at least 2 other properties that have built into the right-of-way. So if for some reason you were not to approve this, and for some reason the city of Flagstaff would have the money to actually do this, this particular foot trail would run straight into a brick wall. It makes more sense to go ahead and move to redesign, if we ever do get the money, the foot trail to the opposite side of the road. This is a road that literally has one driveway on it, so it's not very well used. To put the foot trail on that side and to allow the community to have a beautification project that recognizes the history and the historic nature of who actually lived there.
Ms. Evans, I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
You, Councilmember McCarthy. Any other questions or comments towards Ms. Evans before we turn this inward, Council? I'm not seeing any C's and Q's at this time, so thank you, Ms. Evans. With that, Council, do we have questions or commentary, questions of the city staff regarding this issue, or I'd like to entertain a motion?
This is Jim McCarthy again. And again, I apologize for butting in. I'll try to get that fixed at the next break. My first thought is, does staff have any comments about Coral Evans' comments about that there's no current plans? I thought there were some current plans to work in this area in the near future. Does staff have any comments in that regard? And then I have another comment.
Your Honor, members of the council, this is Martin Ince, multimodal transportation planner. Just one project that we have that's funded is the portion of the Foots Trail over to the west that goes past the corner of the cemetery onto the NAU campus. That project is funded in the current budget, and we've had some meetings with NAU, although we have not proceeded to design with it. So that is the one project that is somewhat underway. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Entz. Okay, I have another comment, and then I'll shut up. I've been thinking about this issue since the meeting we had a couple weeks ago. It bothers me that the applicant accused the city staff or council of being racist, which he did. While the applicant may feel that way, that does not make it true. It also bothers me that the applicant made accusation about our city manager's alleged statements at a meeting between the manager, the applicant, and other participants. We just heard Coral Evans speak to that issue. After hearing the city manager refute the applicant's statements at the council meeting, I had a conversation with one of the participants. That person stated that the applicant's accusations were, and I use a quote, they were lies. The person that I talked to is a person that I respect and, more importantly, that I trust. When an applicant tries to use such tactics to win over support for their case, I find it to be angering and counterproductive. End of statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember McCarthy. And I will mention, Councilmember McCarthy, if you could try to do the, see the raise hand button, since the C's and Q's aren't going to be able to be in the chat box. Could you just test that out for me real quick and see if maybe we could use that as a mechanism?
Thank you. Good tip.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, I'm not seeing any other comments, questions in the chat box, but I do see a couple motions here, starting with Councilmember Salas. Would you like to make a motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate and acknowledge Council Members McCarthy's perspective, and I share it. I am concerned about the mendacity that the applicant has displayed a couple of weeks ago. But I do recognize former Mayor Evans' point in articulating the value of abandoning this property. With that, I am making a motion to read ordinance number read ordinance 2021-12 by title only for the final time. Thank
I'll
you.
second that.
I have a motion for Councilmember Salas, seconded by, was that Councilmember Shimoni?
Yep.
All right, thank you. And just will note, Councilmember McCarthy, I did see your hand raised before, so that button is working for you. All right, seconded by Councilmember Shimoni. Any further discussion, Council? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? That motion carries.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Flagstaff abandoning and authorizing the sale of approximately 1,400 square feet of the Hoskins Avenue public right-of-way adjacent to 709 South O'Leary Street, providing for severability, authority for clerical corrections, and establishing an effective date.
Thank you, City Clerk. I would like to, or Councilmember Aslan, you got the M there.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to make a motion that we adopt resolution or ordinance number 2021-12.
I second that motion. I am seeing a comment from Councilmember Shimoni. Councilmember Shimoni, do you want to?
Thank you, Mayor. Just really quick.
Actually, Mayor, this is Sterling. We really should get a second to that before we have any discussion.
I second that motion.
Oh, you seconded it. Oh, my bad. Thanks.
Oh, yep. Pleasure. Councilmember Shimoni?
Thank you, Mayor. Just really quick, I just wanted to express gratitude to our city manager, Greg Clifton, for bringing this forward and working on this with the community, and to staff who put effort and time into this. I think this is worthwhile, and I'm glad that we're addressing this and moving this forward for the sake of the community. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember. I have a motion to adopt ordinance number 2021-12. Councilmember Aslan, seconded by myself. Any further discussion?
Yes,
All those in favor?
I just wanted to mention real quickly, I appreciate Councilmember McCarthy's comments and everybody's defense of our city manager in this situation. Fortunately for the applicant, the merit of the issue goes far beyond any one person's character or perceptions here, and of course we need to weigh all considerations when coming to our decisions, and I'm looking forward to passing this this ordinance because I feel that it's necessary in spite of the unfortunate circumstances surrounding it.
Thank you, Councilmember Aslan. Well, without further ado, all those in favor? Aye.
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 All opposed? That motion carries. We're now down to agenda item number 8A of our regular agenda. This is the consideration approval of the construction contract with Standard Construction Company Incorporated in the amount of $7,140,688.18 for the Coconino Estates Improvements Phase 2 project. Staff recommended action is to approve the construction contract with Standard Construction Company Incorporated in the amount of $7.1 million, which includes a $301,122.75 contract allowance with a contract duration of 540 calendar days. All right, City Staff.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members. My name is Eli Reisner, City of Flagstaff Capital Improvements Project Manager. I'm here to recommend the approval of the construction contract for the city's Coconino Estates Improvements Phase 2 project to Standard Construction Company. I prepared this brief presentation to provide an overview of the project. The project is a utility and roadway improvements project in the Coconino Estates neighborhood with limits as seen on the vicinity map. For the entire project limits, the improvements generally consist of replacing all existing infrastructure, including aged and undersized water and sewer mains, water and sewer services, fire hydrants, and manholes to meet current standards, minimize the possibility of emergency repairs, and reduce associated service outages on the 56 to 94-year-old utility infrastructure. Aged and deteriorated asphalt that is no longer maintainable with a chip seal or overlay to improve the street's ride quality and longevity. Rolled curb with vertical curb to improve drainage issues and increase the stormwater capacity. And select sections of existing sidewalk along Crescent Drive to eliminate tripping hazards. After consulting with IT during the design, it was determined that fiber optic conduit would not be added to the project because the project limits did not overlap with the limits of the broadband master plan on Fort Valley Road, which provides more opportunities for use and partnership with other community stakeholders, both public and private. A temporary construction yard location for the project will be proposed by Standard Construction Company and approved by the city based on the new temporary use permit requirements. City staff has made it clear that the Thorpe Park Annex site currently being utilized for the Coconino Estates Improvements Phase 1 project will not be allowed for use by the Phase 2 project. The project is funded by multiple funding sources for different portions of the project. The Road Repair and Street Safety Program will fund the portion of the project shown here in red. The Aging Water Infrastructure Replacement and Aging Sewer Infrastructure Replacement programs will fund the portion of the project highlighted here in green. Pending Council's approval, construction is anticipated to begin in June on the Crescent and Navajo portions of the project. Construction is anticipated to be complete in fall of 2022, ending with the Talkington and Side Street portions of the project. We will acquire the services of Beta PR, a professional public relations firm, to help us inform the public during the project. Beta PR will update the project website that they have helped create, draft and distribute construction notices to residents adjacent to and surrounding the project prior to the start of construction, host a project hotline for the public to use for a resource for project information, and create and distribute emailed weekly updates during construction to residents that sign up to receive them. That concludes this presentation. Does the council have any questions?
Council, any questions for Mr. Eisner? Councilmember Shimoni.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Bison, for the presentation. I noticed that we are not addressing sidewalks in this improvement phase. Is that correct? On Talkington specifically?
Councilmember Shimoni, that's correct. We are not adding any sidewalk to this project where it does not currently exist.
Is there like a cost estimate or something like that that we can consider to do such an effort?
Councilmember Shimoni, we have not put together any type of cost estimates to add sidewalk to this project. It was not something that was considered during the design.
The reason I bring this up is because my understanding is that there's a school nearby and that kids, I forget the name, if it's Sechrist or what school that is, but that kids use Talkington as a avenue to move, to get home and to come to school. And that Talkington doesn't have sidewalks currently, or parts don't. I guess I'll just state, I'd be interested in exploring that. I think that'd be of high value to the community, to accessibility to all populations that rely on their feet or bicycle or their wheelchairs to get around rather than having to walk in the street there. And I would be curious as to what it would take for us to do that here as part of this update. I'm guessing we would need council majority support, and then we need to figure out how much and where that money is coming from. But those are my thoughts, Mayor and Mr. Reisner, and I'd love to see us do that if that was at all possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Shimoni. If that was included, would that require us going back to the drawing board for all of this, or can we approve this and then consider that thereafter?
Mayor, yeah, that would require us to go back to the drawing board and have to redesign this project. I guess I misspoke earlier, during the design, we did consider adding sidewalk to this project, but Proposition 419 transportation tax does not have the funds to add missing sidewalk to local roadways, which all of these within this project limits are.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Eisner. Mr. Barrett, you have a comment?
Thank you, Mayor. This is Rick Barrett, City Engineer. Good evening to Council as well. Yeah, Eli basically answered the question that I wanted to, the answer that I wanted to get out there. But I guess I would suggest to Council that sidewalk can be added after the fact. And I certainly would not recommend that we postpone this project at this point in time. The other point that comes up is that Talkington does not have the level of traffic that would warrant sidewalk. I know that there could be public opinion about that. Our engineering standards today would require sidewalk on a residential street, as Talkington is. But much like the conversation we had on the other phase one, we chose to put sidewalks only on those roads that carried more traffic, that being Beale and Navajo roads. So I just wanted to provide that perspective that I don't think now is the time to move forward. If Council did have a majority and wanted to push this, I would suggest we reject all bids and have further discussion. But yes, we could add sidewalk at a later date if that's Council's majority path forward. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Vice Mayor, his comment.
Thank you, Mayor. I am not interested in stopping this process. However, I just want to go on the record as supporting sidewalks and encouraging us to figure out ways to include sidewalks where they don't currently exist. And I hear you, Mr. Barrett. Thank you about the traffic on Talkington. I just think that no street is complete without having functioning sidewalks that the public can use. So, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Shimoni.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Mr. Barrett. Question for you, Mr. Barrett. So obviously we're bringing out all the vehicles, the expertise, the manpower, the person power to do the construction here. From your perspective, does it not make more sense to just knock it out while we're here? And what would you estimate the cost to be? I know this is just throwing out numbers, but I'm just curious what kind of numbers we're dealing with if we're talking about Talkington. And then I guess if you don't mind touching upon the pros and cons of having to come out in the future to do that separately rather than doing it integrated into the work that's already being planned and going to be done.
Yes, thank you for that, Councilmember Shimoni. Let me start with cost estimates. I don't know at this point in time what it would cost. I mean, typically sidewalk is going to run between $12 and $15 a square foot. Depending on the exact scope of work, obviously that number could change depending on if we wanted to include, those cul-de-sacs, if you will. I'm looking over at my second screen. There's Davis and Thelma and Hazel. So again, just depending on whether it's exactly just Talkington or not, we'd have to play into that. But however, the biggest issue that I see right now is that sidewalk was not planned as part of the design of this project. It was not part of the procurement for this project. And to consider sidewalk as part of this project, I do not believe that is possible unless council rejects this bid and then we rethink how we're going to move forward with the scope of a new project going forward. In terms of, well, if you could remind me what your second question was, Councilmember Shimoni, I would appreciate that, and I apologize.
What was my second question? I was wondering, so do you have a general cost estimate? Are we talking about $100,000? Is it $500,000? Is it $2 million approximately?
Again, I don't know exactly. Maybe Eli could throw that together for us real quick. You know, so a sidewalk, every running foot is going to be 5 square feet. I believe this would be a 5-foot wide sidewalk. So yeah, if you go 100 square feet, we could come up with that sort of, or 100 linear feet of sidewalk, we could come up with that number. It's probably more in the area of 1,000, if not 3,000 feet of sidewalk. So maybe Eli could do some quick math for me. The other thing I want to point out here is that we do not have funding for sidewalk built into the road repair and street safety improvements. The underlying principle of the tax that was put forward for road repair and street safety was to basically upgrade the street as it existed and upgrade water and sewer line as they existed. Our policy has been under this program that we, again, put back what we found. The exception has been in Coconino Estates Phase 1, where we did a very robust public involvement. We involved community members, and you might recall that the community support for sidewalk ran very close to 50-50. I appreciate council's desire, and I'm right there with you. Again, I point out, as I said a minute ago, sorry for the redundancy, but our engineering standards today completely support sidewalk on every street. It is a complete street. But not all residents are going to want a sidewalk in front of their house, as we've experienced. So I think we have a funding issue. So then the question might be, could we find the money? Well, the money would then have to be pulled out of the priority projects that we are trying to advance as part of the active transportation and management plan. So we have earmarked priority projects as part of that process. So we'd be dipping into that funding. And again, those priority projects that we're finding, because we do not have enough money to put sidewalk on every residential street in Flagstaff that wasn't originally constructed with sidewalk, we will find that our priority bundle of projects being managed by Martin, who spoke earlier at this council meeting, that those projects are going to be prioritized on the higher classification roadways. Again, those roadways that are carrying more traffic. So yes, this project does present an opportunity in terms of we have a contractor that is prepared to mobilize, but I don't think it's as clean as add sidewalk at this point in time. Thank you.
And Rick, my other question, if that's okay, Mayor, that you didn't address was just that the pros and cons of doing it while we're there with the equipment already being there and the staffing to make it happen, rather than coming back a separate time. You know, I'm sure there's a cost to having to come out twice.
That is true. Yes, you can save on mobilization, traffic control, all the points you made. That is a true statement. And yes, my comment about it could be added at a later date. That added at a later date is still very reasonable. I would ask council to consider whether we would want to do robust public involvement, or would council just be making the decision? I don't know. I ask that respectfully. And I guess I would leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember. At this time, my opinion on that is yes, you know, and that we should proceed with this current plan and address the sidewalks issue when we have the funding to do so. Also, given the our experience in the same general neighborhood regarding putting in sidewalks in people's roads, I would say that we should do a robust outreach beforehand So with all that in mind, it I think would delay this too heavily to be able to get done if we at this point in the phase go back to the drawing board. So this time, council, if you have any other C's and Q's to throw in there, but otherwise I'd like to make a motion. All right, I would like to motion to approve the construction contract with Standard Construction Company Incorporated in the amount of $7.1 million, which includes a $301,000 contract allowance with a contract duration of 540 calendar days. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion by myself, seconded by Councilmember Sweet. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries. We're down to agenda item 8B. This is the consideration and adoption of resolution number 2021-25. A resolution of the Flagstaff City Council approving a data access exchange agreement between the Arizona Department of Transportation and the City of Flagstaff for access to crash data through the Arizona Crash Information System. Staff recommended action is to read resolution number 2021-25 by title only. City staff.
Thank you, Your Honor, members of the council. Martin Ince, Multimodal Transportation Planner with the Engineering Division. This data access agreement would give the city access to the Arizona Crash Information System, which is a statewide database of crashes. Actually, we've had this agreement would replace a previous agreement that has expired. We've been collecting crash data from ADOT since about 2001. We use the information in a variety of ways. I included a number of those in the staff summary. And I'll give you an image of one way we use it. This illustration shows pedestrian crashes over a 10-year period, about 350 of them in total, and it shows their spatial distribution. This is an intergovernmental agreement, which is approved by resolution. So a draft of a resolution has been included in the packet for your consideration. And I have nothing more at this time, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Council, any questions at this time? All right. With that, I would like to motion to read resolution number 2021-25 by title only. Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, I think that was Councilmember Shimoni who said that first. So I have a motion by myself, seconded by Councilmember Shimoni. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
A resolution of the Flagstaff City Council approving an intergovernmental data access exchange agreement between the Arizona Department of Transportation and the City of Flagstaff for crash data from the Arizona Crash Information System, ACIS.
Thank you, City Clerk. I'd like to motion to adopt resolution number 2021-25. Do I have a second?
Second, McCarthy.
Seconded by Councilmember McCarthy. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries. All right, moving right along here. We're down to agenda item 8C. This is the consideration and adoption of resolution number 2021-22, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Flagstaff and the Summit Fire and Medical District for dispatch services. Staff recommended action is to read resolution number 2021-22 by title only. City staff.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Katie Brandis. I'm the Emergency Communications Manager with the Flagstaff Police Department. I'm here today to ask you to approve the renewal of the 5-year intergovernmental agreement that will allow us to continue to provide dispatch services for Summit Fire and Medical District. We've been providing dispatch services to Summit Fire and Medical for the last 5 years. Dispatching for them allows us to provide faster fire and medical services to our community because we have direct radio communication with them. They are also part of the greater Flagstaff Regional Fire Response with Flagstaff Fire and Highlands Fire. Being able to dispatch all 3 agencies on one channel in big incidents saves time and allows agencies to communicate effectively. If the agreement is approved, the Summit Fire and Medical District will be billed based on the number of calls they receive annually. They average about 1,300 calls per year, which is cost recovery of approximately $45,000 returning to the city. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions you have.
Thank you. Council, do we have any questions at this time? I'm not seeing anything. Thank you, Ms. Randis. With that, I would like to
Mr. Mayor,
motion.
I'm
Yes.
sorry. Yeah.
There we
I
go.
put it in the chat box. Yeah, I guess it was delayed. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to take this moment to send a big, grateful, thankful heart to every member of our Flagstaff Fire Department. And thank you. And with that, I am ready to make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Salas. I do see Councilmember Shimoni has a comment here before we do so. So, Councilmember Shimoni.
Thank you, Mayor, and hi, Katie. Thank you so much for presenting tonight and your work for the city. Great job on the GCTV episode this week. I thought that was very awesome. And yeah, I just wanted to say thank you and appreciate all of your hard work for the city.
Thank
you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Shimoni. Councilmember Salas, would you like to make that motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to, it is my honor to make a motion to read resolution number 2021-2022 by title only.
I second that motion. We have a motion by Councilmember Salas, seconded by myself. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. City Clerk.
A resolution of the Flagstaff City Council approving an intergovernmental agreement between the Summit Fire and Medical District and the City of Flagstaff for dispatch services.
Thank you. And with that, I'd like to motion to adopt resolution number 2021-22. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Salas. Sorry, Councilmember Sweet.
No problem.
All right, I think Councilmember Salas beat you to the punch, but I have a motion by myself, seconded by Councilmember Salas. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries. Agenda item now 8D. This is the consideration and adoption of resolution number 2021-23, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between Coconino County and the City of Flagstaff for a jointly funded dark sky code compliance specialist position. Staff recommended action is to read resolution number 2021-23 by title only. City
Hello,
staff.
good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council members. This is Dan Folk, Community Development Director for the City of Flagstaff. Tonight we do have an IGA for your consideration. I spoke on this a couple weeks ago at your joint meeting, and I have one slide that gets into the detail of the new IGA. But before we do that, I was hoping we could allow Mark Stento to do his presentation on really what has been accomplished during the current term of the IGA. It's about a 5 to 10 minute presentation. And so I'd like to be able to turn it over to Mark and let him go through that information about everything we've accomplished. And then I have, like I said, one slide on the new IGA. And so let me share my screen. And then Mark should be with us, and I will turn it over to Mark.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So my name is Mark Stento. I'm the dark sky compliance specialist with City of Flagstaff and Coconino County Code Compliance. I'm going to give you a brief update here on our dark sky enforcement efforts and compliance efforts over the last year in both the city and the county. Dan, next slide, please. Thanks, Dan. So I know you've all seen this before. I'm going to elaborate on it a little bit just to kind of give you a better idea of what this role is has accomplished so far and what the objectives are for the future. I can explain some of the data I'm presenting in these slides as well. So one of the primary tasks of this role is undertaking outdoor lighting permit review and refinement efforts. We've really done a lot of work on that over the last year. And along with city planning and development, we've heavily refined the permitting process. The objective here is to ensure proper lighting that meets city code moving forward, that we're not missing anything, and that we're not essentially grandfathering lighting that doesn't meet our code. We've been very successful in this role. I've reviewed 92 outdoor lighting permits, and these are multifamily and commercial permits for major developments within the last year. We also provide after dark inspection services to ensure the installed lighting meets the approved lighting permit application. On about, and this is a rough estimate, anecdotally, 20% of those we do catch violations, start cases, and use the tools available to us in that process to ensure we're providing enforcement consistent with our code. We also take residential lighting complaints from the general public. Most of these revolve around lighting trespass, that is light spilling from one property onto another. We see a lot of health and safety issues in that we see, floodlights, white light going into bedrooms, things like that. We're called in those situations. We provide investigation services at night, and we adjudicate appropriately based on city code. We have also had numerous other shielding related cases and other things in the residential sector as well. We tend to be more proactive in our enforcement action on the commercial and multifamily side versus reactive on the residential side. The residential landscape in terms of exterior lighting is a battleground at the moment, and we're working on materials that I'll get to here in a minute to aid in our voluntary compliance in that sector, because that's ultimately where we see this going. We've resolved 31 major lighting standards violations cases. These are significant cases involving large multifamily and commercial properties, often involving tens if not hundreds of thousands of lumens, a lot of it unshielded. Those cases are our major landmarks and what we've really been focusing our efforts on. We have many active cases right now as well. So we have more active than resolved. A lot of the time these cases take 6 to 12 months just to resolve. The timeline for fixture replacement, or permitting rather, then ordering and replacement is rather extensive, and we see significant lead times on a lot of custom narrowband amber fixtures, which, as you may be aware, our code requires for the majority of commercial and multifamily lighting. So the very nature of these commercial cases involves a significant time frame and a lot of legwork on code compliance's end. They're complex moving cases, or complex cases with a lot of moving parts rather. We're also working on residential outreach programs. We have an active bulb replacement program for residential homes where we will provide phosphor converted amber bulbs in exchange for existing white bulbs. We will provide advice on fixtures. We do all sorts of outreach, including house visits. We participated in the high energy efficiency workshop program along with sustainability, who was kind enough to allow us to join in on that. We give out bulbs through that program as well and provide about a 10 to 15 minute presentation on dark sky friendly homes and what city code actually is in regard to outdoor lighting standards and how it may affect participants in that program. We also working with local lighting distributors on a dark sky friendly labeling program. The light company over on 4th Street, specifically labeling dark sky products with labels we've developed. We're also working or trying to work with some of the other electrical outfits in town to bring more commercial tools in, so things don't have to be ordered. We don't have to deal with that lead time factor quite as much. And we're also working on internal compliance issues. We have a lot of city properties that need to adhere, all of our properties need to adhere to our own outdoor lighting standards in order for us to maintain our IDA membership. If everyone is not aware, hopefully you are, we are the first international dark sky community. Many others are following now. In order to maintain that certification, our city properties have to adhere to our code. We're working with facilities internally and other relevant departments to ensure that's the case. If it's not the case, we're trying to put plans into place to ensure we're getting there sooner rather than later. That kind of explains this. You can see where most of our cases are in fact commercial. And that's something we foresee continuing into the foreseeable future. Next slide, please. Thank you. Quickly covering our quantitative analysis of our enforcement action thus far. Please understand this is not an assessment of all light in the city. We don't have a way of doing that. This is an assessment of light on parcels in violation subject to enforcement action. So it's a snapshot of just those parcels, just those commercial cases. Quickly reviewing it, you can see a significant total lumens reduction. So taking those 30-some commercial and multifamily cases, that's what this data is derived from. We can see amongst those cases, through our enforcement action, we have removed hundreds of thousands of lumens of total light. The majority of those are white light as well. So again, this is just in the last year. We have data beyond this regarding voluntary compliance action, commercial enforcement action the year prior as we were still setting all this up. And the reality is we're making an impact in terms of millions and millions of lumens out there. The big impact is on our white light lumens and our unshielded lumens. And of course, those are the higher impact lights that have lots of shorter wavelength blue light that contribute heavily to light pollution and obviously very negatively towards the DoD observatories in the area. We're returning some of that light as fully shielded narrow spectrum amber light, which is very similar to in spectral output to the low pressure sodium street lights that Flagstaff has enjoyed for so long. Of course, low pressure sodium is no longer being manufactured, so narrow band amber, narrow spectrum amber is the suitable LED replacement. So just within the last year, we can see quantitatively a substantial impact through our enforcement cases alone within just the city. Next slide, please. This is a brief highlight of county action thus far. Of course, that's not the center of our discussion today. I will just, however, briefly run over this. The county is obviously more dispersed in terms of commercial and multifamily properties. A county code is also a generation or two behind ours, complicates enforcement action somewhat. So instead of summarizing it quantitatively like I've done within the city, it's a little more qualitative. So we're certainly working on commercial violations. We do a lot of residential outreach as well, and we're doing some remote location investigations too. We're trying to communicate with remote jurisdictions, unincorporated areas within the county, but we're also meeting regularly with incorporated areas such as Page and Williams within the county who may wish or in the process of developing their own lighting standards. Moving forward to provide feedback on those and assessment services, essentially providing an evaluation of their existing lighting problems within their municipal boundaries. We also provide a lot of materials testing with our visible light spectrometer. And we will, I'm just working on a church in Lighting Zone 1 where we tested substantial or quite a bit of material for large glazed surface area. So we were essentially testing illuminance through fenestrations, taking measurements through various materials as applied to those glazed surfaces, those windows, in order to support the observatory's missions and ensure that development in County Zone 1, close to the observatories, was as low impact as possible. Without the tools available to us or without the existence of our department, we wouldn't be able to provide that service. And no pun intended, of course, some of these things would be moving forward in the dark. We're also assisting the county with updating their lighting standards as well. Next slide. So the joint land use study implementation grant is in full swing. We are working with Matrix, the county, and Dark Sky Partners to develop specifications for a GIS database that will house information on city nonconforming and county nonconforming parcels. This will be huge for us. It'll allow us to track lighting in a visual, spatial way moving forward. It'll be great for posterity too, because if I'm not here in the role, someone else will be able to jump right in and keep doing this moving forward. And if I've learned anything in this role, it's that the second we turn our back or we're not working at night, we're not doing anything else, the proliferation, of white LEDs results in substantial impact. People will go out and install new lights on their commercial property when stuff fails in a heartbeat, and the impact is substantial. So we have to monitor constantly. Dark Sky Partners is in the process of analyzing existing non-conforming parcels we provided to them, mostly within the city at this time, and we are waiting on that data to come back so we can move forward to the next phase of database development. We're also developing outreach materials specific to single-family residences in both the city and the county. And again, there's a posterity element here as well. We hope these will serve as a platform for similar outreach efforts down the road. So this is something we're maintaining indefinitely in order to keep light pollution at bay as LEDs become more efficient. Next slide, please. These are just some citizen feedback things. I'm sure you read this if you saw this before, especially on the residential side. We like to have a light touch as much as possible. Our objective is to generate advocates through this process, again, especially on the residential side. And it's more important for us to use the carrot as much as possible. We've had some positive feedback in that approach. Next slide, please. And we can kind of see that extends to the county here as well. This is just a small sliver of it. You know, we do get some positive feedback resolving these complaints. It does become a health and safety issue in some situations, and we do have members of the public who are grateful for what we've done, and we're certainly grateful to provide the service as well. Next slide, please. So we can see some impact examples for some major commercial properties. This is just visual, and that's, you know, it's hard to really weigh the true quantitative impact when we're just looking at things, but you can see the illuminance level on the ground there. And these are shielded fixtures that were white light that we caught through nighttime enforcement action. And if we go to the next slide, we can see how they look now. We still have adequate illuminance in the parking lot for safety and security, which is what these class of luminaires are intended for. But we've reduced our impact in this case by 5 to 6 times. So just visually looking at it, the actual spectral change and total lumen change in these cases, what we're looking at here visually, about 5 to 6 times reduction in overall impact. We're hoping to have the same impact around the city. We have many, many other cases in progress. And I am happy to take your questions at this time if you have any.
Thank you, Mr. Cinto. And I mean, your work is speaking for itself. I'm seeing how much we have progressed in such a short amount of time is very impressive, and I appreciate your hard work in it. Council, do we have any questions at this time?
If not, Mayor, I have one more slide. Let me share that.
Oh, okay.
Just to talk specifically about the IGA.
Yeah, Councilmember Shimoni has a comment real quick, so I'll jump to him and then we'll jump right back to you. So,
Mayor, I'll wait till the end. Thank you.
Okay. And Mr. Folk.
All right. Can you see that slide now?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. So just again to go over the IGA, this was an outcome of the joint land use study in 2019, which was to have a shared position, Coconino County and the city of Flagstaff. The original IGA was approved in February of 2020. It does expire July 1 of this year. I believe the staff summary had an error. I had listed July 31. It actually is July 1. And so that's why we're bringing a new IGA to you tonight. This new one is for a 5-year term. So if it's approved, it would run until July 1 of 2026. Either party can remove their participation in the IGA. I believe it's with a 30-day notice, really for almost any reason. So either the city or the county can do that. It does call for equally splitting the cost of the salary of the dark sky specialist position. The position is considered a city employee. We hire them. Obviously, it's in cooperation with Coconino County. The city does cover the benefits and the workers' compensation. And then finally, the agreement does allow for a third-party contribution. I really want to recognize Lowell Observatory and Jeff Hall, their director. They made a contribution to the initial agreement of $10,000, which we've applied. So it's applied equally at the top, and then the city and county split the remainder. And so should we find additional funding throughout the life of this agreement, whether it be a private contribution or a grant, we can apply that and then split the remainder between the city and the county. And so that's what I have for you this evening. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All righty. Thank you, Mr. Folk. Councilmember Shimoni.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have any questions at the moment. I just wanted to thank Mark for his service and say it's nice to meet you, and we appreciate your work.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Aslan.
Thank you very much. Mark, thank you so much for all you do. I think this council and the city staff knows how much I appreciate and support our dark sky compliance efforts. Just wanted to take this moment to once again mention my enthusiasm for a larger regional dark sky preserve, and everything that you're doing and anything that you can additionally do to make that outreach happen. Please do so, and really enthusiastic about that vision of a larger regional space where we can really ironically shine and be an example to the rest of the world. We need to protect that last tree and grow a new forest of dark out there. There's numerous reasons for us to do so, and I'm so excited to be a part of a leadership team that is showing the way in recapturing our natural dark. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Aslan. Well, I'm not seeing any further C's and Q's in the chat box, so with that, I would like to motion to read resolution number 2021-23 by title only. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion by myself, seconded by Councilmember McCarthy. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries.
A resolution of the Flagstaff City Council approving an intergovernmental agreement between Coconino County and the City of Flagstaff for a jointly funded dark sky code compliance specialist position.
Thank you, City Clerk. I'd like to motion to adopt resolution number 2021-23. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, a motion by myself, seconded by Councilmember Sweet. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries. All right, we are down to agenda item 8E. This is the consideration and adoption of resolution number 2021-19 and resolution number 2021-20. So a resolution of the Flagstaff City Council amending the Flagstaff Business Attraction Job Creation Incentive Program, as well as amending the Development Reinvestment Incentive Program to assist in attracting new business that will provide high-wage jobs in targeted industry sectors. Staff recommended action is to read resolutions number 2021-19 and 2021-20 by title only. All right, Mr. Fitchett.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. My name is Jack Fitch. I'm your Business Attraction Manager. I only have one slide for you this evening. This slide outlines the former language that was in the policies that were brought to you 2 weeks ago on the left-hand side, and then the updated new language that has been changed that is removing some of that ambiguity that was mentioned 2 weeks ago. So Our economic development team worked with our legal staff to propose this new language that you see here on the right. And those are the only changes that are now different from the policies that were presented to you 2 weeks ago. And I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Fitchett. Councilmember McCarthy.
Well, thank you, Mr. Fitchett. I was the one that was a little concerned about the former language. I think this is amazingly improved. I'm very supportive of this, and I'd be willing to make a motion when the time comes after discussion. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you, Councilmember McCarthy. I am not seeing any C's and Q's in the chat box, so if you would like to make that motion, Councilmember McCarthy, go ahead.
Okay, I move to read Resolution 2021-19 by title only.
I second that motion. Motion by Councilmember McCarthy, seconded by myself. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries. City Clerk.
A resolution of the Flagstaff City Council amending the Flagstaff Business Attraction Job Creation Incentive Program to assist in attracting new businesses that will provide high-wage jobs in specific industry sectors.
I move to adopt.
I second that motion. Motion by Councilmember McCarthy, seconded by self to adopt resolution number 2021-19. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Councilmember McCarthy, would you like to do the have the honor for the next one as well?
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
Okay.
I move to read Resolution 2021-20 by title only.
I second that motion. Motion by Councilmember McCarthy, seconded by myself. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. City Clerk.
A resolution of the Flagstaff City Council amending the Development Reinvestment Incentive Program to assist in attracting new businesses that will provide high-wage jobs in targeted industry sectors.
I move to adopt Resolution 2021-20. And one more time, thank you, Jack.
I like to second that motion. A motion by Councilman McCarthy, seconded by myself to adopt resolution number 2021-20. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. And we are moving right along here, Council and staff. Great work. Well, I'd like to take a quick little break here. Let's do just 11 minutes so we can reconvene at 4:25. Thank you all. Are we good to go?
Yes, Mayor, we are back live streaming.
Excellent. Well, this brings us to agenda item 8F. This is the discussion and possible action, City Council Rules of Procedures 11.07.
Thank you, Mayor. Stacy Salzberg, City Clerk. This item is before you because we received a request to revisit the language. I'm going to go ahead and put the language here up on the screen so everyone can see. And I'm going to just turn it back over to the council for any discussion and direction to staff.
Thank you, Ms. Salzberg. Well, yeah, I brought this forth because when I was speaking with the city attorney, it came up that this broad language could be interpreted in a manner that would be very restrictive for us to do a lot of our jobs. and mainly it's just the first sentence there, not any other part. But the part that says at least 2 members of council must be in attendance at any meeting with state, federal, or tribal representatives where any city, state, federal, or tribal business is discussed. Well, the thing with this is that representatives means anyone who represents any of these government bodies. That could be ADOT, that could be NAU, that could be a staffer with, you know, a Congress member or a senator. And this would really affect, for example, well, I'll go through the following commissions that this is going to create some difficulties with if we are to be liaisons without a second member available. So the CJCC has the NAU police chief. NAPTA has a member, representative of NAU regularly. The Colorado Plateau Water Advisory Council has a representative of USGS. Sister Cities has an NAU representative. The Arizona League of Cities and Towns, we regularly have state elected leaders and so forth at those meetings. The Corporation Commission that we have a member of liaison for, and NACOG. All of these entities, we under these rules of procedures are not allowed to actually attend those meetings without a second member of council present. And that's going to, I figure, create some difficulties. And I understand the purpose of this sentence, but I think we need to be a little more explicit or really get to what we're looking for with this message so that it isn't, you know, we're not using a sledgehammer where a scalpel will do. So that, and, you know, when events are opening up here soon, this is also going to be rather restrictive for, you know, if anybody is going to a O'Halloran event or Wendy Rogers, Walt Blackman, anything, that we can't even enter any of the events without a second member of council present, because in that meeting there would be city, state, federal, or tribal business discussed. So I have a few other examples, but I do have a couple comments and ways that we could potentially approach this, but I definitely wanted to open this up to council discussion and get your input on this matter. And I do see Councilmember Aslan has a question.
Yeah. Respectfully, Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure that I buy into the premise of the grievance you're making here. I would like to hear from the city attorney if he concurs with any of the conclusions that you're drawing here. And especially with respect to liaisons, we are officially appointed as liaisons by the full council in those roles. And so the whole point of that is that we go forth and do the work of the city with the full faith and blessing of the council body implied. I don't want to tinker with this language to the point where we weaken the job it's trying to do. And I believe that these rules are here and they've been created because they're important and they're necessary. So, you know, just going back to my other career as an author, whenever I start revising, I try to be very careful and judicious about how broadly I revise things, because you end up making a mess of things later down the road that also need to be ironed out. I want to be very careful about this. Would love to hear from the city attorney.
Yeah, absolutely, Councilmember Aslan. And I just want to point out real quick, this isn't up for a vote right now. This is currently as a discussion and direction, so it's not like we're going to be making a huge decision to completely rewrite this tonight. It's just bringing up some of the concerns, and I'd love for the city attorney to chime in here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councilmember Aslan. Mayor and Council, I would like to let everybody know, obviously, the language was written the way it was written. It is very broad. Could people interpret it to include liaison positions or any representative from a state or federal government? Sure, the language is written that broadly, but whether or not it was intended to be that broad or not by the council, I think is something that's up for discussion for you all here tonight. If somebody were to bring a complaint to me about somebody serving on the CJCC or as a liaison to that, or to NAPTA or some other, the similar response to what Councilmember Aslan had indicated would be my response. However, the rules of procedure are rules that you all use as council members to keep each other in check, if you will. So could somebody try to make hay out of that? Yes. Well, would it go anywhere? Well, that's yet to be determined, but ultimately that's for you, the council, to decide whether or not you want to keep the rule as is, which is broad and could be interpreted that way, or would you want to add any additional language to attempt to clarify or make it more specific, if you will.
Thank you, City Attorney. And Councilman McCarthy had his hand raised. I see a few C's in the comment box too, but I believe McCarthy had his hand up first.
Yeah, I think I was first. Whatever. Just to bring another example, Mr. Mayor, what you were talking about. For instance, I've been going to the Arizona State Transportation Board meetings because, you know, I'm the chair of the Metro Plan, and that makes sense. And I don't see anything wrong with that. I think it's appropriate. And my guess is if I tried to drag along another council person, then I wouldn't be able to attend. So I think in summary, I think we do need to revise the wording to make sure that it says what we want. Now, what we want, I think we're going to discuss tonight. And I have a few thoughts, but I think the bottom line is, yes, it needs to be revised. How it needs to be revised is to be determined. It may be that the intent was that when we meet with federal congressmen, congresswomen, senators, and possibly, I don't know, state legislators, because generally the tradition has been when we go to those meetings, we always do have two people. But when we're meeting with boards and commissions and things like that, I don't think there is a need for that. Another option would be that maybe we have to make, whenever we meet with any of these people, it has to be clear that we're only there as speaking on our own behalf and not on behalf of the whole council. Now, I guess it would be a little awkward to have us read that, you know, sort of like we do when we go into e-session and read what the rules are every time. But, you know, that's another possibility. So I'm just throwing these out for conversation. But the bottom line is I do think we need to clarify what our intent is and have the words reflect what our intention is after we decide what that is. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember McCarthy. Councilmember Shimoni.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I agree with you, Councilmember McCarthy. I think there are two different topics we're talking about here. One is the commissions that you were bringing up and our liaison work with those commissions. And if that is an issue, we do need to adjust this. I think you have a good point there, Mayor. But I think the intent of 11.07 here is really to prevent any one or group of council members keeping the information and having the power of the communication with, whether it's a state representative, a federal representative, a tribal representative. You know, Mayor, when you've met with President Nez, I've always wondered, is there a rotation? How's that rotation working? Is this something that you're just choosing? I don't know, you know, and it does concern me. And Mayor, I'd love to hear what you think about that. But, you know, I love to have the opportunity to meet with President Nez, with you and others, you know, part of the rotation, as it should be. But I don't know if we've been following a rotation. Can you respond to that? I'm curious.
Yeah, certainly. Well, President Nez was coming into town and asked specifically to have a meeting with me. And I felt with that opportunity that, hey, you know, it would probably be good to include the vice mayor then if you're in town, that it would make sense. And then at the same time, Councilmember Sweet was in the building. So given that, who was invited. So it was all just kind of fell into place. It wasn't a matter of rotation. And actually it was specifically wanting to meet just with me. And I wanted to be more inclusive of the rest of council to better represent us. And at that meeting too, was when we spoke about including the rest of council and taking a trip up to Window Rock so we can have a more thorough discussion with more of the leaders from the tribal nation, as well as all of council. So that was that particular situation. It was just kind of fell together.
I appreciate the background, and I fully support the city of Flagstaff through you, Mayor, and other colleagues, speaking with President Nez and everybody else. It's interesting. I think in those types of scenarios, I support, us just whipping up what we can to make it work. And I appreciate the inclusiveness that you demonstrated. But in any kind of planned future discussions with whoever it is, I really do hope we're using the rotation. And I assume that we would be. But again, Mayor, I support what you're saying about your concerns about the committees and commissions that we're appointed to as liaisons. I think we have to continue that discussion. Sterling, I think that definitely has merit. But I think that I support the rest of this, and I think you do too. I guess those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Shimoni. Councilmember Salas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate you bringing up your concern. This specific item on our rules of procedure specifically addresses lobbying, our state, federal lobbying trips, and of course, and our relationship with our tribal partners. And I also support the rotation approach so that every member of council will have the opportunity to accompany the mayor in his meetings. If there's a concern regarding representing the city in the liaison role with the different commissions and boards that we were appointed at large as council at the beginning of this year. Perhaps it will be necessary to add another section in the rules of procedure dealing with council liaison roles and responsibilities. So council liaison to different commissions and boards, especially boards that work with other agencies, like you mentioned Mr. Mayor mentioned CJCC. We have the Metro Plan, and then with that Metro Plan, for example, I'm on the board with Metro Plan along with Council Member McCarthy as chair and Council Member Aslan as member, and then the Vice Mayor Daggett as alternate. But with my role on the Metro Plan, I am the Metro Plan's liaison to the Rural Transportation Advocacy Council, which is lobbying for our region for state funding for transportation projects. So perhaps this will your concern can be addressed in a separate item that will speak to our roles and responsibilities as liaison to the different commissions, and also keeping in mind when the former council in January 2020 19 made a commitment to increase communication with the different commissions and also increasing collaboration with our different commissions. Those were the primary intent in council's commitment to appoint a council liaison to every commission, every active commission and board that we have. So, and I'm open to introducing a new item on the rules of procedure with respect to how we communicate as liaison to different commission and boards. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm comfortable with the language the way it is, and I didn't hear the city manager express, city attorney express concern. I feel like I understand what this is intended to do, and so I'm comfortable with the language as is.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Sweet.
Thank you, Mayor. I am also comfortable with the language as is. I do appreciate Councilmember Salas's idea of maybe adding another section that would address the council liaisons. I'm worried that if we start reworking 11.07, we'll get into the weeds and it'll lose the meaning of what it's intended for. So that's where I'm at right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Well, the one thing about this then too is that it could be a violation of this if we speak with staffers of elected leaders without any other member of council present. So my suggestion was going to be, if we want to change this, we can do it very minimally and specifically say, for example, meetings with state, federal, or tribal elected representatives. Because the intent of this, as we're all aware, was due to an incident from 12 years ago, or 13, something to that effect, a while ago, when it was regarding meetings and with Congress members by one member of council. So the issue there was specifically with how the city of Flagstaff was represented by one member of council to elected leaders. So I'm thinking that that might be able to help address this, but I'm throwing that out for discussion as a possibility. That could be an easy fix. So that way we still have the ability to meet with individuals and talk, not be so heavily restricted when that seems to be what the intent is, unless I'm wrong if there's some other intent behind that first line, but that was my understanding. Councilmember Shimoni.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. There has been issues more recently. It wasn't too long ago that I've heard about certain things that had happened that are why we have this in place. Just to kind of hold us accountable to representing the city and working, not just for our own political things that we care about. Anyway, so are you asking specifically if we could, create some more flexibility for working with elected officials, staffers?
I'm just throwing it out there because I thought that was the intent of this. If we're unable to, for example, have a coffee or, just throwing it out there, our Northern Arizona Regional Director for Senator Kelly, Coral Evans is a resource, and as the former mayor, and as somebody who is well connected with our senator, well, we wouldn't be able to have anyone have contact with her or any other staffer, or whether that's that or say Keith Breckus with Tom O'Halloran, or any of these other individuals without another member of council present. So I personally have not had contact with these individuals over this time, but I do see this not just for myself, but other members of council potentially running into issues with this and with such a broad stroke.
Right. My only follow-up, Mayor, would just be that, you know, what I've done when I've been in those circumstances is I just stay away from city business, you know, and you can't talk about city business at those times. And if we do want to, we have to set it up, as you've mentioned, you know, properly with the proper attendance. I'm okay with that as is, Mayor. I think it is important that we have at least a couple members of the council with the mayor, or whatever the minimums might be for any given scenario. I do see the importance of that to hold all of us accountable to the work for the people. That's just my opinion and thought. Thank you.
Thank you. And I did want to just point out that the first sentence is not just for lobbying trips, because that was the confusion I had when we originally voted on this. I understood that, okay, yeah, definitely 2 when we're in a lobbying trip specifically. And that's where my confusion came in, that when we reread this and I was like, wait, hold on a second. Does this affect our commission meetings? You know, does this affect, you know, us to... Honestly, I'm thinking about fire season, and if we, God forbid, have a wildfire, that none of us can individually have any contact with the Forest Service, because those are representatives of the federal government. We can't talk to state officials. The governor calls and I say, hold on, I need to get on a 3-way call here because I'm talking about city business. That it's going to, I think that when I voted for this too originally, but when I was thinking about it was in that whole lobbying trip. And now as I start to think about how broad of a stroke this is in affecting just some of our basic job duties like crisis response and liaisons, that's why I thought that it would be good to bring forward for us. I do see Councilmember McCarthy has his hand up.
I think that the mayor's suggestion of adding the word elected in front of the word representatives is consistent with what my understanding of the original intent was. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember McCarthy. Councilmember Aslan.
Yeah, I'm uncomfortable with this conversation. I don't think we should be changing this language any further. I think the way things are stated here right now encapsulates what we can and can't do in good faith. And if someone is violating these rules in bad faith, I think we will all know it, and we will all be able to discuss that. If things are happening, and the point is that this is about city business happening, okay? And even with the fire season and with emergencies, we have a conduit that involves the city of Flagstaff and leadership and city staff in dealing with these things. None of these things should be dealt with in back rooms and mano a mano. And we can see where it's appropriate for leverage to exist, and we can see where abuses will come along if we are acting in bad faith. And I just think if we start micromanaging this language, we're going to have the exact same problem we have right now, except it's going to be shifted a little bit elsewhere and differently. I think the spirit of 11.07 is that we should not be conducting or attempting to conduct official city business with representatives of other government agencies on our own. I think it's really simple. And as long as we don't do that, we're in the clear. If we start trying to wheel and deal and come to arrangements and use these relationships of power for our own campaign purposes or our own personal benefit, then I think we're getting into trouble. And I think we're going to be able to discuss this on a case-by-case basis when necessary. I don't think this needs to be micromanaged. It's going to be micromanaged incorrectly at some level, and we're going to have the same headache that we already observe here.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Shimoni.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councilmember Aslan. I appreciate your comments. I do have a question for you, Councilmember Aslan. I'll state my thought first, and I'm curious what your thought is. I personally struggle with the idea of relaxing the rules for like staffers, right? Whether it's a congressperson or a senator's staffer. To me, you might as well be talking to the person that the staffer works for. Although I see there to be a big difference, you're still advocating on behalf of the city and doing work for the city, even with a staffer. Councilmember Aslan, would you agree with that line of thought, or do you feel? What do you think about staffers?
Yeah, well, it's not about the person; it's about the topic. If city business is being conducted, and someone is uncomfortable with that, then that's a violation of this rule. If there's no city business happening, then everyone's personal relationships are their own personal business, and we should provide all 7 of us should provide each other with the benefit of the doubt that we can have personal relationships and be in the clear about this. I think where the line is drawn is really quite simple. If we are trying to further or conduct any city business with any representative of another governing agency or authority, then that's a violation.
Right. Thank you, Mayor.
I do want to point out that it isn't just city business in this directive. It says city, state, federal, or tribal business. So this encapsulates more than just city business, which 100% I agree.
Interests. I mean, of course, this is related to the city of Flagstaff's interests and the interests or the potential interests of this governing body, which is the city council. It's not that difficult for me to understand where the lines are here.
Well, I just feel that we should be able to clearly state and get this based on the intent rather than that's really what the purpose is for this, is to really codify the full procedure. But from city manager or Stacy, it seems like we have have seen a majority from council not wanting to even discuss this further. Am I correct in that? Councilmember McCarthy.
Thank you, Mayor. The reason I'm advocating for a change to the wording is that I don't understand the wording. In the second line, it uses the word representative. I don't know what that word means. Is it all inclusive? Is it narrowly inclusive? That's my first point. My second point is that when we do lobbying trips to Washington, D.C., I was clearly in violation with this, because what we did when we went back to D.C. is we split up so that we had like 2 members would go talk to some congressman and another 2 members would go talk to another congressman. In other words, we only had 2 people from council in the meeting, where this policy says you need 3. So if we keep that rule, that would prevent us from having certain meetings in Washington, D.C., the type of meetings that I've actually participated in. Another problem would be, say if one council member, say there were 3 that went on the trip, and one council member had to leave early on the last day of the trip, then we'd have to cancel that last meeting. Even if we had 2 council members there, it clearly says, my reading was that you need 3 council members to be at a meeting with a congressperson. So these are things that need to be cleared up in my mind. They're minor changes, but they're necessary changes. That's where I stand on it. We'll see what the council thinks. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember McCarthy. Councilmember Aslan, where you wanted to chime in?
Sure. Yeah, Councilmember McCarthy, I just honestly think you're overthinking it. and I understand that this is this is a document with language, and I don't know. A lobbying trip in which we're all there, and then we split up to divvy up tasks a little bit so that we can get more done each day. We still have our finger on the pulse of what is being discussed and who is doing the discussing and what business is being moved forward. And that's also the case if someone has to go home early. I think we can figure out loosely and case by case when a violation is being when a violation is occurring, and when we're just trying to operate in good faith to further the mission of the city of Flagstaff. I don't know that we need to micromanage this. We're going to get it wrong, and we're going to have similar but different issues at the end result of this. We're going to be swapping one ambiguous document for another.
Thank you, Councilmember. Vice Mayor has a question.
Thank you, Mayor. This question is for either the city manager or the city attorney. I'm just wondering, has there been an issue with this particular point where it's been unclear, or something has a problem has arisen among council members previously?
Yeah, I can speak to the more recent concerns that I've heard about. That was on a lobbying trip back to DC a few years ago. Some impromptu meetings more recently. Things like that are what I've heard about, but that's all I can speak to. I don't know, City Manager Clifton, if you want to comment.
Thank you. Thank you, City Attorney. I have nothing to add to what you said. That is my understanding as well. I know that the genesis of this particular rule does go back in time, but I'm not a good source on this with more recent events as referenced. So yeah, I'm sorry that I'm not of more help.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember McCarthy, did you have your hand up again, or is that a leftover or relic?
My hand is not up, but I do have a quick comment. I remember the specific incident that happened that promoted this rule, and I can mention the name if you want. I probably don't need to, but this was written because one council member, and I might add that it was a person that's not on council now and hasn't been for quite a while, actually, that they caused a big problem back there. And congressmen and senators were calling the city and saying, you have a big problem here, do something about it. And this was what came out of it. All I'm saying, my basic position is, I have faith in our city attorney that he can write something up that defines things like, what is a representative? Is it okay to only have 2 people in a meeting with congressmen? I mean, you could read it. It's like, well, if 3 people are on the trip, but one of them decides to just stay in his hotel room, that's really still 3 people on the trip. Or another person might say, wait a minute, if there has to be 3 people on the trip, there has to be 3 people in the meetings. So I would think 2 people would be enough, but I don't know. To be honest with you, I'm not going to worry about this. If we don't do anything on it or do it, fine. It seems like certain council members say, well, just trust us, we'll do the right thing. Well, fine, I'm okay with that. I'm not going to lose any sleep over this one way or the other.
Thank you, Councilman McCarthy. And I guess back to Salzburg or Mr. Clifton. Oh, I was just going to see about a tally, but Councilman Rassler has a comment.
just really quick, I don't want my position on this to be misconstrued. I am not saying that we should just all trust each other. I think that if issues arise, we can identify which of those issues are serious and why they're serious as a deliberative body, and we can take appropriate action at that time. I don't think we need a 20-page document that maps out every possible scenario or games out all the types of issues that we could run into. I think I believe that there can be and there may very well be some issues with this down the road on this council or another council. I'm not trying to be Pollyanna here or look at the world through rose-colored glasses, Mr. McCarthy. I just think that between the 7 of us, we can figure out when the spirit of this protocol is being abused, and we can identify those moments specifically through context. I don't know that we need to micromanage this. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you, Councilmember Aslan. City Manager is just wanted to check if this is a moot point for continued discussion at this stage. If
Thank you,
Mr. People willing to, further the discussion.
Yeah, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Council, for a thoughtful discussion. As you pointed out at the beginning, Mr. Mayor, this was broached for some discussion and consideration by Council and not necessarily as an action item at this time. I think it's something that can always come back accordingly if there was an issue that materialized where that clarification that you articulated, Mr. Mayor, that needs to be revisited. So I don't know that I would construe it as being a final thing, but rather an ongoing thing. It's a living document. I will note the obvious here. These are council rules. And they are promulgated by council and they are adopted by council, and staff is here to facilitate and to inform. But I believe all the rules in this document originate with this body, so it can come back at any time for continued discussion, much like it has this evening. But to specifically, Mr. Mayor, I don't know that we are hearing any consensus to make a change at this point.
Thank you, City Manager. Councilmember Shimoni.
I just wanted to share one more thing, Mayor, before we leave this topic. The beautiful thing about the inclusionary aspect of this 11.07 is that, we come and go as electeds, as all of us, we come and go, and this ensures that there is a continuation of leadership in the know, not just amongst staff, but amongst council members. And so I do understand that this is definitely, I'm sure, harder to work with from your position, Mayor. But I do think in the end, it's in the best interest of the city to, if Governor Ducey calls you up to say, hold on, I can't talk city business, but let's set something up. I think that there is value there. But I can see how this would be a nuisance and maybe even frustrating at times. Just wanted to add that. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, and I just want to point out too, this isn't about me. This is about all of our abilities to do our job functions. It's about that this is related to, this could be interpreted as being going to an 8-out open house like we did once upon a time for the Milton corridor, and only one member of council shows up. So now we can't actually enter and have a discussion and see what these plans are. It is, and I am approaching you about this because I want to make sure that I'm above board and making sure that when I go to the Arizona League of Cities and Towns, and we have, like in January, Kathy Hoffman was a part of that meeting, that I'm not in violation of it. And when I read this, I was like, whoa, wait a second here. am I in violation of doing these liaison committees? What's going to happen? And I was looking at this more broadly. So this isn't about me. This was about really making sure all of us have the ability to function, and that also doesn't preclude us from being able to share that information or anything else. But I just felt that when I read this again and talked to city attorney about it, that this broad stroke was something that I want to make sure that we're all above board when we all are in our commission meetings, when we all are at events. So, because again, it's not just city business, it's state, federal, or tribal business. So if we go to an event, even if we ourselves are not talking about the city of Flagstaff, if we are a part of a meeting where state and federal policies are being discussed with anyone who could be considered a representative of those bodies, then we could potentially be in violation. And that's what I was trying to ward off and make sure that we were also all on board and understanding what this means and how it could be used. So again, I was trying to get this so that way we all are above board in what we're doing, and we all are not hamstrung from being able to do simple job functions like going to a commission meeting or going to an open house, something to that effect. But it's shown that council is not interested in furthering this. So unless there's any future comments, we can just move right along on the agenda. All right. Well, with that, we're down to agenda item number 9. What do you know? Council liaison reports. All right. We have, I guess I'll go, should I go up the list this time around? Sure. Councilmember Sweet, do you have any liaison reports?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just looking forward to a meeting with Mountain Line and the Transit Advisory Committee tomorrow. And that's what I have for right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Shimoni.
Thank you, Councilmember Sweet, for bringing that up. That is what is on my list as well. And I think that's all I got, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Salas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended the Airport Commission meeting last week. The numbers for employment are very promising, and actually they are available in the city manager's report. And it looks like our March numbers employment exceeded the 2019 numbers, and our April numbers is almost close to the 2019 numbers. So keep flying Flagstaff first. And actually my son, who's still in town, took the direct flight from Denver to Flagstaff in time for Mother's Day. So it was an awesome flight, he said. So no more stopping over in Phoenix. At the Airport Commission meeting, a recurring item was brought up. Perhaps it's due for a future discussion on council, and also in the Metro Plan discussion, is bringing bus service to the airport to provide transit and transportation for residents, and also to further our climate goals. I missed the Parks and Recreation Commission meeting last night because I was spending time with my son, but I will catch up with the chair and our Parks and Rec director. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember McCarthy.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
All righty. Councilmember Aslan.
I also have nothing to report today.
All right. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one thing, and that is another call to people to please take the Flagstaff Housing Survey. You can find it on the city's homepage, which is flagstaff.az.gov. It's really important that we hear from as many people as possible. So please, please, please take that survey. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Well, I had a couple liaison meetings with the Arizona League of Cities and Towns on Friday, where we were discussing primarily the response to the flat tax that the state's looking to do, and ensuring that, well, the Arizona League is taking the stance that we want to be revenue neutral on what we are receiving, so that if, as you know, that our income tax, we receive 15% of all of the income tax to the state goes redistributed to the cities, and that dollar amount was going to, with this, be reduced for the city of Flagstaff, $3 million, but overall quite a bit for all of the Arizona cities. So the League of Cities and Towns is advocating to raise the percent of our share of the income tax from 15% to whatever's higher, to make sure that we still receive the same level of revenue if this goes through. So that was the main part of the discussion on Friday. Then also with the Diversity Awareness Commission today, we discussed the Pride Proclamation for June, and also had a very, very spirited presentation, a very great presentation and informative from the Flagstaff High School students advocate for renaming the peaks, and from the Flag High Native American Club. So that was a very good discussion and very informative. It's really great seeing these young individuals and teenagers who are so articulate and knowledgeable in these things and really being active. So it was a good meeting. Aside from that, those are the two liaison reports that I got. So with that, we are down to the city manager report. Agenda item 10.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'll go through my report briefly. You may have noted that appended to my report this time around, we have 3 monthly reports from sustainability, economic vitality, and our capital projects teams, respectively. And I will invite leaders of those teams to speak briefly about those monthly reports and walk you through them. We won't spend a lot of time. They're there for your reading and your enjoyment, but I don't want to speak for others on the reports that they have worked so hard to put together. So we can, in a couple of minutes here, I think first from Nicole Antonopoulos on sustainability, and then we'll pass the baton accordingly. We'll try to get through this quickly. What I would like to highlight for you, Mayor and Council, and it's all included in my report, we have some significant work anniversaries for the month of May. And this is something a couple of months ago we started highlighting for you and for the community, certainly for the organization, as these are milestone anniversaries and achievements by our fellow colleagues. In the 5-year anniversary category, we have John Jaramillo. He's a firefighter with us. Heidi Derryberry is also celebrating her 5th anniversary, as is Krista Snow. I was in a retreat with Krista Snow this morning. The 10-year anniversary, we have one individual, Mark Richardson, our Water Services Operations Section Director. He was also in the retreat this morning. Mark, happy anniversary. In the 15-year category, Gary Miller, our Development Engineer. Very happy to help him celebrate his 15th anniversary. And then we have a couple of recipients of the 20-year anniversary mark. Casey Rucker, who's a police corporal and detective. I will note that Corporal Rucker will be retiring, and I'll be attending his retirement ceremony at the end of this week. We're happy for you, Corporal Rucker, and thank you for your great service. William Catlin, a meter technician with our water services crew, is also celebrating his 20th anniversary. And then we have one that I would like to mention. We will be calling out those who are anywhere above 30 years in their anniversary. We have one this May who happens to be celebrating his 47th year with the city. Hilario Lopez, we call him Larry, and he has been with us for 47 years, working with our housing staff. There's a nice quote there from Sarah Dar. I would invite you to give that a read. Congratulations, Larry. I would also like to note for council, it is called out in my report, the retirement of Carolyn Pinnock. She has worked for the city for 21 years, started in community development in 1999, eventually moved over to the Flagstaff Visitor Center. So she is getting ready to enjoy a much deserved retirement. We're very happy for her, and thank you for your service, Carolyn. Council, I will also note, but I will not provide the narrative here. It's all in your report, complete with nice photographs, some accolades and achievements on behalf of our fire department, followed by the same with respect to our police department, and then some nice updates from the other departments, including human resources, public works, and also with that, there's just a brief update on some recent meetings that we've had, including one this last week with members of Whitehall Industries getting ready to move into the Walgreens facility. We're so excited about that. And an update, you'll get continued progress reports on this. So actually, we'll probably have finality updates for you at the next report regarding a transfer of the Pulliam ground leases. You can read that for your information. A couple of agendas of other meetings attended. A quick reminder that on Friday we will be having our Alliance for the Second Century meeting, and the city is hosting that one. We look forward to that. And what else? I'm just going to call that the Alliance meeting. I don't know if I've got the name of that correct. I think that's it from me. There is a little blurb on a visit we had from Senator Kelly. So on to the monthly reports. Nicole Antonopoulos, are you queued up and ready to speak briefly about the sustainability update?
I am. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Nicole Antonopoulos, Sustainability Director, and thank you so much for the opportunity to provide a brief update on our monthly activities. Lots of movement and efforts with the climate action initiatives that we're undergoing. And just this month, sustainability staff have given over 40 presentations to groups throughout the community just to discuss the climate neutrality plan and the climate emergency declaration. Of course, we will be back in front of council next Tuesday to walk the council through the draft plan and then hear from our community members. There's been an incredible amount of community interest in the carbon neutrality plan, and this will be a great opportunity to hear in varying perspectives on the carbon neutrality plan, as well as have a review of the draft plan. I do want to talk about work in other areas in sustainability, specifically related to our community stewards and litter prevention activities. We have seen a tremendous increase in interest in getting back out and volunteering in our community. And we did host a Earth Day neighborhood cleanup event on April 10th, and we met at several parks around the community to clean up litter. We had 66 volunteers attend and picked up about 50 bags of trash. We also kicked off, and you heard this at the beginning of the month, our One a Day in May anti-litter campaign. And that goes through the end of the month. You can still join the campaign and download the Literati app, and I'll go ahead and drop some information in the chat if you'd like to join us. And just as I mentioned, we've seen an increase in volunteers who are feeling comfortable getting back out into the community, and we have 130 members of our volunteer corps in the month of April donate over 300 hours, picking up 87 bags of trash and 17 bags of recycling. So really excited to see that community interest. Regarding our energy initiatives, our home energy efficiency online course has been translated into Spanish, and really just huge kudos to a climate science and solutions graduate student who took on this project as part of her curriculum for her certificate and translated all of our home energy efficiency course into Spanish. So really thankful for that. Regarding our food systems initiative, we're really excited. We have developed a garden workshop series to support both new and experienced community gardeners. And this month alone, we have 2 workshops scheduled for our Isabel and O'Leary gardens. And you did hear about this at the beginning of the month, but we have been partnering with the NAU Public Health Capstone Group to really encourage community members in the South Side to gardening or take interest in gardening at the O'Leary Street Garden and composting opportunities that exist at that garden as well. And then finally, in our food initiatives, we're really excited. Our partnership with FUSD and Terra Birds and Coconino County Cooperative Extension, we were awarded a Gruen Schoolyards Technical Assistance Grant, and this grant is over the next 30 months. And we're going to receive technical assistance and funding along with opportunities to collaborate with cohorts from other cities across the country. In our materials management area, we had a very successful drop-off day and dump the drugs shred-a-thon event on April 24th. And this by far has been the most popular, sorry, I can't think of the word I want to use, but we've seen the most activity from our community at this event over the years that we've been hosting it. And we had over 350 households attend the event. And just some fun statistics, we collected almost 1,300 pounds of batteries for proper disposal and recycling, 72 pounds of compact fluorescent light bulbs, 109 fluorescent light tubes, 136 pounds of aerosol cans, and shredded over 9,000 pounds of paper. Really excited to see that interest increase significantly. And we also hosted another Fix It clinic at the beginning of the month. I did want to mention that the Sustainability Commission has been talking a lot about visioning and their vision and their mission, and they have decided to adopt a vision for the commission, and that is to create a culture and community that thrives in response to the climate crisis. And they have identified their mission as the Sustainability Commission is to advise the Sustainability Section staff on matters related to climate and sustainability, supporting community projects through neighborhood sustainability grants, and provide feedback to the City Council on sustainability issues. I'm really thankful for all the hard work that the Commission has been doing regarding the neighborhood sustainability grants and their strategic visioning for the Commission. Their next meeting is at the end of the month, which will be a great opportunity for staff to recap the discussion on May 25th regarding the carbon neutrality plan. And that's all I have for this month.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you for that nice overview. Next, we have Economic Vitality. Heidi Hansen, are you in the room?
Yes, I am. Thanks, Greg. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members. Heidi Hansen, Economic Vitality Director. I hope you'll look at the monthly report. I know many of you always do, and you give us great feedback. We appreciate that. I'm just going to go over a few items. Airport has the airport program manager position that you all graciously agreed to last year is now hired. And so Brian Gall, who's actually already a city employee, is now coming over to our camp and helping us out at the airport, and we'll be getting all things done with our CARES Act funding especially. So we're excited to start seeing some hangar improvements and some terminal enhancements, things like that. You'll see Brian very, very busy. So sorry to community development, we did steal him, but we're happy that he's still staying with the City of Flagstaff family. Employments have been terrific at the airport, like Councilmember Salas had shared. And the bigger thing is load factor, over 90% load factor. If you can get over 65% load factor, you're in good shape. So 90% load factor means our planes are getting full. Very excited about that. just completed the Park Flag annual report, so we'll be having that out to you very soon. I know that we had parking closed down for the majority of the year, but there was amazing activity that was still happening and that we're going to be sharing with you through that report. So I want to thank the Park Flag team and Dave McIntyre for the work on that. And I would have to also share that Terry Medeska, our Downtown Business Alliance Director, had a lot to do with getting this report completed on time. I think that you'll be happy to hear that we've also created in Beautification Arts and Science 2 self-guided tours. One is for public, you can see public art while biking, and another one is public art while walking tour. So I hope that you'll look at these and you'll go to the links. Lots more happening in Beautification Arts and Sciences, but again, you'll have to read about it. Economic development, like City Manager Clifton had stated, Whitehall Industries is getting ready to get things moving. And another exciting thing is one of our business incentive partners, Catalyst Space Technologies, is getting ready to move into the business accelerator again, with help from one of our business incentives. So these incentives are actually being put to work, and you're going to start seeing it creating workforce, which is the whole premise to it. I hope that you saw on Sunday we had the Arizona Daily Sun Back to Business section in there. We worked with the Daily Sun on getting lots of ads and articles in there. And if you haven't looked at it, I hope you will, because you guys are all in it. We basically did an ad with the help of Jessica Drum and Ralph Schmidt from the council, as well as an article. So I hope you'll check yourselves out, and you'll see that we are definitely having you part of getting everybody back to business and getting them back to work. So please take a look at that. And if you haven't had time, I can send you the section. And then the library had amazing monthly stats. Curbside checkouts were amazing. They grew by 16%. They had phone-in reference that was grown by 14.5%. And I just can't say enough about this library and how they've kept it together for our community during this pandemic and continue to do so. And then tourism and visitor services, last but not least, the lodging metrics are amazing. We are definitely not only, of course, beating our COVID 2020, but 2019 numbers, which is what is so amazing. Occupancy was at 79.3% compared to 75.1% in 2019. Average daily rate is almost at $113 compared to $98. These are huge numbers. So we're actually getting heads in beds, and we're actually getting the economic impact along with it. And then Greg talked about our longtime visitor center partner, Carolyn Pinnick, that is retiring. She's a lovely woman, and we're going to definitely miss her in the years of service that she gave to our visitor center. And then last but not least, it's exciting to see that conference and room leads are increasing. Gosh, how many of us have not gone to a conference in a year and a half? Well, we're actually gotten 4 major leads this last month, which will bring in over $278,000 in just a couple weeks' time. So we're very excited to start seeing that happening. And then also with marketing and media relations, we produced 28 print articles and 191 digital articles, which is just beyond exciting what Lori, Meg, and Sabrina are doing in that. And then I could go on and on. I just hope that you'll read the report, and you'll see that our FireWare ads are happening, and they're going to be dropping this Sunday in the Arizona Republic to make sure that people know that we want them to be fire safe. So thank you all, and I hope that you'll take a look at it and get more information. So thanks, Greg, for the opportunity.
Actually, thank you, Heidi. That was a very nice summary of a wonderful monthly report. Council, again, I would invite you to read these monthly reports at your leisure. We have one more that we would like to highlight. If I could bring Mr. Rick Barrett to the microphone. I know he and his team have been busy, not just this year, but last year, and as long as we can remember, the building industry is happening and going full tilt, which is great news. Rick, would you like to touch on some of the bigger projects you have going on?
Thank you, City Manager Clifton, and good evening, Mayor Deasy, Vice Mayor Daggett, and members of council. I'm Rick Barrett, City Engineer. Glad to provide this report to you, and it's provided to council and the community for your reading pleasure. We hope to answer any questions that may arise, so please send them our way. Just very briefly, big highlights that I just have this opportunity to share with you is we're working with Congressman O'Halloran to seek an $8 million grant that is appropriation as well as authorization that'll be in the surface transportation bill. Yet to be approved, of course, has a long way to go. But we're proud of that effort. We're cooperating and coordinating with the Flag Metro Plan. Many members of Team Flagstaff are involved in that endeavor, so by no means does that credit go to the engineering group. We just have the honor of being able to report it. Another thing I wanted to highlight is the work we did for the downtown area. The Euro is what it's known as, but specifically we were able to get a handicap ramp installed that allows the folks in the handicap ramp that's there on LaRue to be able to come up the alley that'll be closed real soon and cross Aspen Avenue in a safe, striped with a decorative pattern, and of course signage on Aspen Avenue just to help those folk get safely across Aspen into Heritage Square. I'd also point out that our local contractor, Eagle Mountain Construction, pulled that work off in less than 2 weeks. Very proud of their diligence to stay on schedule. The next step is for our public works crew. I believe they were out there today doing some pavement maintenance. And if the crosswalk isn't down already, it will be in any days now. Let's see, you heard about Coconino Phase 2, but of course we continue with Coconino Phase 1. We also have other road repair and street safety projects ongoing, Davidson and Hutchinson and Canyon Terrace. We continue to work on the Lone Tree Overpass and the Rio de Flag projects. Those are our really big, heavy lifts that we got going on right now. Both of those are involving coordinations with BNSF Railway. We've recently again partnered with Mountain Line and Metro Plan and now Amtrak, as well as BNSF, as I mentioned, and we are working diligently to pursue a RAISE grant, which is R-A-I-S-E. I'm not even sure what it stands for, and I apologize for that. But we are securing that, and I would just want to point out it's a planning grant. So a lot of efforts going on there. We continue to deliver many aging infrastructure projects for our water services division. Proud to have them look to us to deliver those projects. And then lastly, we are a liaison for the ADOT project that's happening out here in front of City Hall, which is the replacement of the Rio de Flag and Route 66 bridges. May not seem like a bridge to most of us as we're driving by, but those two large box culverts, again, out in front of City Hall, are going to be replaced with a bridge. The big news that I want to report there, and we have been planning this, it was built into the contract documents. Unfortunately, to pursue that work, we're going to be closing Route 66 for a 1-week period. That week has now been established as June 10th through June 17th, with the roadway reopening on the morning of the 18th. I can assure council that we will be working hand in hand with ADOT to make sure that press releases and variable message boards and the community is well aware of this very impactful closure. With that, I would ask if there's any questions that I can address at this time. And then thanks again for the opportunity to go over the report.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Mayor and Council, that concludes the report. Just a quick reminder again, that Alliance for the Second Century meeting is Friday morning. I will be attending that. The mayor will be there, and we'll give an update on that during the next report. Before I hand it back to you, Mr. Mayor and Council, I do want to thank the many people involved in these reports. It's a collaborative effort, as you well know. And thanks to those who spoke to the attached monthly reports. Thanks to the two deputies, Shannon Anderson, Shane Dilley, for helping to put the information into these reports. It crosses the spectrum of the organization, so everybody contributes, even though it's under the moniker of City Manager Report. Please know that it is a very collaborative effort. Are there any questions, comments, follow-up that you, Mr. Mayor, or Council would have?
This is excellent. I mean, very thorough, and it's just really exciting reading these city manager reports and all the efforts that are going in and all the good news, and just making sure we stay informed about all the things big and small. And also, I really appreciate the recognitions that you are putting in that report. 47 years, holy moly!
Yeah. We are urging him to make 50, but we don't know if that's going to happen.
So thank you all, and Councilmember Shimoni does have a question.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, City Manager. Great report, and thank you, staff, for all of your efforts in those reports. I have a few questions. I'll try to be quick. City Manager, can you speak briefly to the reopenings of city facilities this week?
Yes, and always at my side in this discussion is Shannon Anderson. Shannon is at the helm of the reentry team, but I will share with you, City Hall opened its doors yesterday, Monday the 17th. It felt good. There was not a line at the front door, but the offices were staffed. And I will say, anecdotally, a success in turn. If you measure that by the number of smiling faces, it very much a success. We were open, of course, today. We will stay open. Our hours are a little bit limited, I believe 10 to 2, but the building is open and operating. Of course, business has always been operating, but it has been conducted remotely. It is a very good thing to get back into our facilities. The Aquaplex, I believe, is opening in the near future. The library is taking reservations and also will be opening for regular business in the near future. Ms. Anderson, could you help fill in the blanks, because I just kind of skimmed over the surface here of what's going on?
Thank you, City Manager Clifton. Yes, our hours at our City Hall facility are 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. Our library, downtown library, is open from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. Again, they're providing computer services there, as well as the East Side Library. East Side Library does have a little different hours to complement what Goodwill is doing, as well as being available on Saturdays. Aquaplex is actually in the process of hiring several staff. Since they've been closed for over a year, we did lose some individuals, and so we need to rehire. And they're planning to open to existing and previous pass holders on June 1st, and that will be for the fitness floor and the gym. So yeah, I think things have been going really well, certainly gearing up on the recreation side with staffing to ensure that we're ready to provide those in-person services. And I know everyone is really excited to do so, both in recreation and at the library.
Thank you for that. Okay, my next question is for Rick, assuming you're still with us. I know you are. Thank you for that update, Rick. Great read on all those projects and all the improvements. My question, might be more for Jessica than for you, Rick, but in regards to the closure of Route 66, I'm assuming we're going to do some outreach ahead of time. Is there any, Jessica or Rick or city manager, is there a plan for communication on that?
Councilmember Shimoni, I can assure you there's a plan for that. ADOT has a dedicated PIO that has been working hand in hand with Jessica. We are just on the cusp of ADOT releasing all their flurry of information that will be hitting the public. I've heard that the 24th is go time. So we're a couple days away, but you can expect that to occur. And yes, assure you that coordination is happening between the city of Flagstaff and ADOT. And ADOT is very focused, just as the city is, in making sure that everybody understands that this closure will occur and what detour routes are available to help people get to where they're going.
Great, thank you. And then Rick, one more question for you, and this is my last one, Mayor. Can you give us an update on the ATMP? And then if Martin's still on the line, maybe he can speak to it, or you.
I'll pause for a moment to see if Martin is still on the line, but basically we are on the cusp of getting that sent out to the public for a 60-day review period. We're right there. It has not been sent out yet, so unfortunately I can't report that it has, but we're just about to get that document sent out.
I see he is on the line, but you might have covered it.
Excellent. Martin, go ahead, please.
I believe he is. There he is.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor, Councilmember Shimoni. That what Rick has said is just so. We do have a few loose ends to wrap up internally, so I don't have a definitive date on when we can get it out to the public. However, I will sit with my colleagues and try to sharpen the pencil to get a good schedule together to give you a target date for getting it out.
Martin, are we thinking for June 1st, or we're so close? But what do you think? Like within a couple of weeks, or do you have any thought?
I think a couple of weeks would be realistic. We'll use June 1st as a target date.
Yeah. Very exciting. Thank you all, and thank you, Mayor, and thank you, City Manager.
All right, Council, any other comments, questions at this time, or we can, press on here. All right, we are down to agenda item number 11, informational items and reports from council and staff and future agenda item requests. So I'm going to go in reverse order here. Let's start with Vice Mayor. Anything for us tonight?
Thank you, Mayor. I do not.
All righty. Councilmember Aslan.
I don't have anything either.
Cool. Councilmember McCarthy.
Nothing tonight. Thank you.
Councilmember Salas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to take this moment and space to lift up our active military members, because last Saturday was Armed Forces Day. So just thanking every member of our military branches on active duty for their service. Also, last Saturday was the Peace Officers Memorial Day. So taking time to honor every police officer who gave up their lives in the line of duty, and also thanking every member of our Flagstaff Police Department. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Salas. Councilmember Shimoni.
Thank you, Mayor. Last night, I had the privilege of doing a ride-along with Corporal Mike Oliver and got to meet himself, who is the head of the local, I might be not saying this right, but I believe it's the local police union. And I got to meet members of the squad and get a little bit more insight as to what our officers are working with on a nightly basis. So I highly recommend anyone who hasn't done this to do this. I plan to do a lot more of these myself, and it was very beneficial for myself. So thank you to Chief and to Corporal Oliver for letting me join you last night. I do have a couple of things. We got an email from a gentleman about sports and a tournament occurring this weekend and next weekend for youth soccer. The girls play this weekend and the boys play next weekend. And the gentleman in his email was saying that the 100 individuals per field was still limiting to the point that they were telling parents and grandparents to, pick and choose who was going to show up. So my understanding is that we're talking about COVID next Tuesday. So I'm hoping we can address that, Council, next Tuesday, and maybe even open that up a little further now that we have some more data and insight from CDC, and also council meetings. I'm really hoping June will be when we go back to in person, but we'll have that conversation next Tuesday as well. For those of us who feel comfortable, right? And if those of us don't, we can call in virtually. And then the last thing, Mayor, is just City Manager, I don't know if this is a fair or how to bring this forward. And Heidi, maybe you can help with this. And I know we're not going back and forth here, but the south side and parking in the south side has come up numerous times, and trying to figure out an opt-out approach rather than an opt-in approach. And so a way that we can just blanket support that neighborhood, ideally while NAU is on break, I think this is a great time to put something in place. And I just wonder, City Manager, what I can do as a council member to help bring that conversation forward. And so, Mayor, I'm not necessarily advocating for a fair right now, but I'll work with City Manager offline to figure out how to get that conversation in front of us. And if it's a fair, I'll bring that up maybe next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Shimoni. Councilmember Sweet.
Nothing tonight. Thank you.
All right. Well, with that, I don't have anything else for this evening. So with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.